What if the world was quietly drifting toward a massive global crisis, and most people didn't even realize it was happening? Over the past few weeks, a wave of shocking developments has sparked intense debate online. Reports of economic trouble, rising military tensions in the Middle East, and controversial statements from political leaders have created a storm of speculation. Some commentators claim the situation is being exaggerated, while others warn it could be one of the most dangerous geopolitical moments in decades. At the center of the discussion is former President Donald Trump and a series of decisions and statements that critics and supporters alike are dissecting in real time. Economic warnings, military deployments, and rumors about global alliances have all combined to create a narrative that feels almost surreal. But the most surprising part of the story is that many of the earliest warning signs didn't come from the battlefield at all. They came from the economy. One of the first signals that something unusual might be unfolding came from economic reports that surprised analysts. Some reports claimed that job numbers had shifted dramatically compared to earlier expectations. Instead of the growth many economists predicted, data suggested tens of thousands of jobs had disappeared. Whether temporary or long-term, the sudden change triggered concern among market observers. At the same time, energy prices began climbing. Oil prices started creeping closer to levels that historically signal instability in global markets. When oil approaches the triple-digit mark per barrel, it tends to ripple through nearly every part of the economy, from transportation to food costs. Financial markets reacted quickly. Investors hate uncertainty, and geopolitical conflict is one of the fastest ways to create it. Critics online began asking a pointed question. If the world is moving closer to a major conflict, is the economy actually prepared for it? Some commentators pointed to the strategic petroleum reserve, arguing that past opportunities to refill it during lower prices may have been missed. Others said the situation was being politicized. But regardless of the political argument, the economic signals were enough to spark a new conversation. What exactly was happening behind the scenes? And that question leads directly to the next piece of the story, the growing military tension in the Middle East. While economists were analyzing financial indicators, military analysts were watching something else entirely. Reports began circulating about escalating confrontations involving Iran and U.S. interests across the region. Missile interceptions, drone strikes, and retaliatory attacks were being reported at an increasing pace. Some outlets claimed that advanced missile defense systems had been damaged or destroyed during these exchanges. Each of these systems costs an enormous amount of money and represents years of technological development. The destruction of even a single unit can have major strategic implications. Meanwhile, retaliatory strikes were reportedly targeting areas connected to U.S. allies and military infrastructure. Every new strike raised the stakes and increased fears that the conflict might spiral into something much larger. But the most concerning rumors weren't about the fighting itself. They were about who might be helping behind the scenes. During interviews and press briefings, reporters began asking officials a question that quickly went viral online. Were Russia and China helping Iran in any way? Some diplomats gave careful answers. Others avoided the question entirely. A few statements hinted that political or logistical support might exist, but details remained unclear. At the same time, commentators pointed out that cooperation between certain countries isn't necessarily new. Nations often share intelligence, technology, or economic support depending on their strategic interests. Still, speculation exploded across social media. Some analysts warned that if major world powers quietly aligned behind opposing sides of a regional conflict, it could dramatically reshape global politics. History shows that many of the largest conflicts didn't start as world wars. They started as regional disputes that gradually pulled more and more countries into the situation. And while those discussions were happening on television panels and podcasts, something else entirely was unfolding online. Another layer of controversy began when statements and posts connected to Trump and the White House started circulating across the internet. One message referenced a virtually unlimited supply of munitions. Critics immediately challenged that claim, pointing out that no country truly has unlimited military resources. The statement triggered a heated debate between supporters, who saw it as a display of strength, and critics, who saw it as unrealistic messaging. But the controversy didn't stop there. Videos and images posted online began mixing footage of military operations with unexpected cultural references. From sports highlights to video game imagery, some viewers interpreted the posts as attempts at viral communication designed for social media engagement. Others accused the administration of turning a serious conflict into something that looked like entertainment. The result was a massive online backlash. But behind the noise of the internet debate, analysts were noticing something that worried them even more. Quiet signs that the military might be preparing for a much bigger escalation. In the middle of the controversy, reports emerged suggesting that certain military medical facilities were adjusting their operations. According to those reports, some services were being paused or redirected to prepare for potential emergency situations involving injured troops. Historically, military planners make these kinds of adjustments only when they believe large-scale casualties could be possible. At the same time, naval deployments were shifting. Additional aircraft carrier strike groups were reportedly moving toward the Middle East. Each carrier group represents thousands of personnel and some of the most advanced military technology on the planet. When multiple carrier groups operate in the same region, it usually signals that leaders are preparing for significant operations or trying to deter them. Military analysts began debating what the deployments meant. Were they defensive, or were they preparation for something far more serious? And that's when a new rumor started spreading. Several political commentators claimed that private conversations within government circles had included discussions about the possibility of sending ground troops into the conflict zone. No official confirmation of such plans was announced publicly, but the speculation was enough to send shockwaves across media outlets. Historically, ground invasions are among the most controversial decisions any government can make. They require enormous resources, carry major risks, and often reshape global politics for years. Adding fuel to the speculation were reports that certain military training exercises had been postponed or cancelled. Some analysts suggested that changes like this can happen when units are reassigned for operational readiness. Others dismissed the rumors entirely. Still, the possibility of boots on the ground became one of the most talked about topics in political discussions. But even that wasn't the most alarming part of the situation, because when analysts zoomed out and looked at the bigger picture, they saw something else entirely. The global situation suddenly looked much more complicated than a single regional dispute. At the same time, tensions were rising in the Middle East. The war in Ukraine continued to reshape European security. Other regions were experiencing their own political instability and military standoffs. Some historians pointed out that periods with multiple simultaneous conflicts often create unpredictable global dynamics. Countries form alliances, economic pressures build, and misunderstandings between nations can escalate quickly. None of this guarantees a global war, but it does increase the level of uncertainty. And uncertainty is exactly what investors, diplomats, and military planners all fear the most. Which brings us to the biggest question of all. When you put all the pieces together, the economic turbulence, the rising military tensions, the rumors of global alliances, and the controversial messaging from political leaders, it paints a picture that feels incredibly tense. But there's an important distinction between speculation and confirmed facts. Much of what people are debating online is based on reports, commentary, and interpretations rather than official confirmation. Still, history shows that major global turning points often look confusing while they are happening. People argue about what's real, what's exaggerated, and what might happen next. Only years later do the patterns become clear. So the question remains, are these events simply another wave of political drama in a chaotic world, or are they early warning signs of something far bigger? For now, no one truly knows. But one thing is certain, the world is watching closely.